Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Hot Chips. Thanks for stopping by. So, this video is going to be about the brand new update for co op, amongst other things, for No Rest for the Wicked. I've got about 60 hours into the game total, with about half of that being since this update was added to the game, and I wanted to share just my initial impressions and thoughts on where the game is today and how the new update feels. So we're just going to jump right into it. Now, obviously, the co-op, right? That's the big thing, the biggest thing, should I say, that was added to the game. It basically allows you to invite up to 3 friends to your private server that is always online. Now, most games, Minecraft, Enshrouded, Sons of the Forest, like if you want most of these games, if you want an always online persistent server where people can join and the host doesn't have to be on for that to happen, most of the time you got to pay for shit like that. Well, not in No Rest for the Wicked. They're giving it to players absolutely free, and I just got to touch on how huge that is. Like, I can't explain enough. My brother and I were playing Enshrouded for a good while, several months back after one of its big content updates. And that was the only thing that we found that was kind of shitty, was that whoever hosted the server had to be on the server in order for the other one of us to play on it. And then when we looked into how to get an always online server, it was like you had to outright buy them, or you had to pay to rent them. And it's like, at that point you're checking yourself, like, are you even going to be playing it that long? Are you going to invest that much in it before you really know if you're even going to stick around? So we never wound up doing that. But with No Rest, it's absolutely free, and that's fantastic. Not to mention, you can also take one of your already existing servers, if you've hopped into early access like I did back when it came out, or even as of recent. You can just simply make that server online. So if you didn't want to start over, you didn't have to. I enjoy starting over when these new content updates hit, especially for a game in early access, because I like to take it all in. A lot of times these developers add more than just, what's flaunted on their trailers. There's a lot of polish and revisited places, and things that are updated and upgraded. And so I prefer to start over. That's just me. And so that is exactly what I did. Now, the party system, it's so basically, like, I have my game on Steam, and unfortunately it doesn't list my friends list from Steam in the game. It'll only show the friends I have that are actually logged on to No Rest for the Wicked. But you basically, if they're on, you can just send them an invite and give them permission to join your server. Now, once in your server, there are things that you can do in the game that will require you to also give those players permission to access. Like if you've purchased any homes, even though you invited so and so to your server, you have to set permissions to your things like your homes. So if you want little Timmy to jump in your house, you got to give him permission to get in there. So it's like he needs a key even though he's already been invited to your server. This also works with things like your stash spots, your chest, if you will, where you stash your stuff. Even though you've given these guys access to your server, if you don't want them and getting into certain stashes and taking certain things you have, then you can literally set it to where you're the only person that can access certain storage, and then you can give permissions to the other players to access other storages that are for them. So I think that's fantastic, giving you just that that extra bit of security, or just tailoring your experience the way you want it. Another very cool thing they have is friendly fire in the game. So, like, you can literally you can get into it with one of these guys. You can fight it out right there on the spot, even in town, man. Like, it's the craziest shit I've ever seen. You know, the treasure chests and different things that are looted, it's like first come first serve. It's not a game where everybody gets to go run to the chest and take their turn looting the chest to see what they get. No, man, the person that gets to that chest first and opens that is the person that gets the loot. And so you can fight over loot, man. You know, you can wager loot over fights. You can, bet this sword on so and so to win this bout. I just, at first I didn't know if I was a big fan of the friendly fire, but after playing a little while with it, it makes sense because it does have its negatives, man. Like when you guys are like trying to crush a boss or you're trying to, kill mobs or whatever, you got to be careful. Because if you've got a guy that's shooting a bow or shooting a fireball from a staff, towards the enemy, but then the other guy like myself, I'm a big melee guy in these types of games. You got to be careful, or you'll fry my ass right along with the enemy. So it has its ups and downs, but I think that I would far prefer it this way than to not have it in the game at all. So let's see, what do we have here next? They added some new status effects to the game. I think they call them major status effects. So like, for example, like if you're using a bow, the game allows you to rock multiple quivers. So I have a quiver in the game that adds fire damage to the arrows, and then my second quiver I'm using right now adds lightning damage to the arrows. So if I hit the enemy with a fire arrow first and then switch because there's like hotkeys where you can switch these stuff fast. So I'll switch to the lightning arrow, shoot him with a lightning arrow while he's on fire, and it creates this whole other version of lightning that is kind of like a mini AoE, and so it's doing more damage. So they allow you to stack these and use these major status effects in a way to where they work with each other. And the super cool thing is, so I have the fire quiver, and then I have the electric quiver, and then I cold imbued or infused the bow itself. So on the bow I have the cold infusion, and then I have the fire and the lightning on the quivers. So it actually works out pretty cool. It's like triple dipping, if you will, with the status effects. Another thing that's been put into the game now are backstabs. So like you can like crotch or whatever, and you can like sneak behind guys, and if you get up close enough to the enemy before he turns around or without being seen, you can do the age-old critical strike backstab. Same thing we've seen in games, Souls games, Elden Ring. I think Elder Scrolls Online actually has it. Once you open the Thieves Guild portion of the quest, it's something you can get. So the backstab's pretty cool. I will be honest with you, man. I haven't really, like, the few times I've tried to creep up on the enemy, they've just turned around entirely too fast. So I haven't really used it a whole bunch, but it's cool that they put something like that in the game. Another thing that's been added to the game, and I believe it was added slightly before the No Rest Together update, was the difficulty tiers. It was one thing about No Rest for the Wicked, man, the game's rough. If you're a Souls fan, if you're familiar with those types of games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what they did is they introduced 3 tiers of difficulties now. So for players who aren't that great at Souls games, or maybe haven't tried one, maybe they're just like Diablo players, Path of Exile players, they can now start it at, like, I don't know, I guess what the game would consider easy mode, even though it really ain't that easy if you're a newbie to some of this shit. And then they have like the intended difficulty, and then now they've also introduced like a hard or harder mode for veterans of the genre, or people that's got 500 hours into this game already. Believe me, they're out there. So there are now 3 different difficulty tiers on top of the world, somewhat, well, at least the enemies somewhat scaling with you as you go, because often in this game you'll find yourself revisiting places you've already been through and covered for things like your dailies, your bounties and your challenges is what they're called. They're really just dailies and weeklies. And so each time I go back now, I find that the enemies are different. They're not the same, and you get to a point in the game where they're quite juiced up. I don't know if that's like determined based on what level you are or what level you've hit. I think in the 20 to 25 hours I've got since the No Rest Together update, I think my guy's like level 13. I was doing a lot to get all the Sacrament town upgrades going. I've got every possible thing you can upgrade in the town now to tier 2. So I spent a lot of time doing that. So I'm not really sure how that difficulty scales with the enemies, but it in fact does, on top of the 3 difficulty options that the game gives you to try out. The whispers and the fast travel has been reworked somewhat. So previously, anytime you came across a whisper, which is the game's fast travel points, you activated it, it was there. You could use it. It didn't matter where it was, how close it was to another one, it was always available. Well, that is no longer the case. Now you have, like, I guess the main whisper points, which do still automatically activate on the map. But then when you go down a bit and you find another one, in the same zone or in the same area, you have to make offerings to these whispers now to get them to activate so you can use them, right? So like you'll have this whisper here, and then under that whisper there might be 4 or 5 different other whispers for locations in that same area, but you have to make offerings to these things to be able to utilize the other ones. Offerings, from what I can tell so far, can literally be anything in the game. Like I've given it crafting materials, I've given it bombs, I've given it food ingredients. It almost seems like it really doesn't matter. But you make those offerings, and then once the bar fills up, then it will at that point make that whisper, that sub whisper, whatever they're calling them, become accessible for you from anywhere. So then there's less, running around or getting back to where you were than what there was before. But you got to make the offers to them. To be honest with you, man, I don't understand the point of the offering system. It's kind of stupid. You're making me basically trash my trash or give up stuff that I could probably use at some point just to make a fast travel point that I've unlocked usable. Like, why? So I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's kind of like you need to go back to the drawing board with that one, guys, because it literally makes no sense. Like I think I understand what you're trying to do. I mean, if you don't want a waypoint system, don't do a waypoint system. If you only want, a few fast travel spots and you want us to have to make that tread back every time, then just leave the game that way. But to put these things all over the place for us, which I appreciate, but then say, oh, you got to cough up half the shit in your inventory so you can use it. I'm cool, man. That I'm not a big fan of. One of the only things about this game right now that I'm not a big fan of. So now the as far as like gear, combat changes, things like that, the bows have been completely reworked. So now, like, you can use the bows like as a main weapon. You freely walk around, you're firing them. I didn't really get to use bows all that much before the change, to be honest with you, so I'm not really sure about all of the things that changed with the bow rework, but I do know that they can now be used as main hand weapons, and that opens up new play styles for a bow. And the quivers are new. I guess the quivers have been added, which I was just explaining to you what some of the quivers do just a second ago. So it lets you like exploit frost, fire, plague, all of the different debuffs that the game has. There is some new gear that's been put into the game. They've got like 5 or 6 new bows, I think, that are put in there. Like 9 new fucking armor sets, which means, pants, hat, helmet, chest. It's not like 9 pieces of new armor, 9 whole new sets, which is awesome. And from what I understand, they added some various new runes to the game as well. So that's fantastic. They've made some changes to how armor works in the game. Thank God. So armor now incurs a stamina regeneration penalty, but it provides you with focus gain. So they kind of like hit it on both sides of the coin there. To be honest with you, I'm not even really sure I completely understand why they went that route, but I will say it feels better. The armor feels better. It's just, like I guess the heavier it is now, instead of directly taking stamina from you, I guess now it's just like a stamina regen thing, if that's what it did before. To be honest, I never really noticed. I'm not too sure. And on top of that, now they have things called facets for your gear, which to me are like implicits. So there, but this one is, it's not every piece has its own facet or implicit like in Path of Exile or Diablo. You can still get pieces of gear that have no facets whatsoever. So when you find one with a facet, and I'm not sure how many different ones there are, I've only seen like 3 or 4 different facets in my playthrough, but it's just like an additional perk, like an implicit that that piece of gear comes with. So it's just like a bonus. It's like an extra stat that is inherent to that piece of gear. So it's basically just giving you extra. From what I understand, there's a little bit of a system behind it. Maybe when it comes to the crafting aspect of things, I'm not sure. I haven't made it that far into it yet. But facets are like implicits. They're just not guaranteed on every piece of gear that you find. Speaking of crafting and the enchanting changes, so Danos, which is the building guy that you do all your building projects through, he is a now near instantaneous build. If you played the game previous to this update, you would go gather all your stuff and then say you would upgrade Fillmore, your blacksmith, to a level 2, and then a timer would pop up and it would say 55 fucking minutes before it's done. Again, I never understood why that was in the game either. I guess a lot of people complain that it made it feel like a mobile game, so they changed it, and dude, it's now like 5 seconds, and your upgrades are done in your town, which is fucking awesome. They've also added some new ember types for enchanting, and they've made basically the basic ember you always found. It is now like it can now add affixes to gear that don't have 3-for-3 affixes on them. It can replace affixes that maybe you don't like. There are items in the game, like the light purple ones. I don't know if those are the legendary ones, but they all come with, you'll get 2 or 3 good affixes, and then you'll get one suffix that's fucked up, right, that you don't want, like, lose 15% of your stamina, or lose 20% of your maximum life, or stamina drain during combat, or focus drain. And so now you can use these embers to not only add new ones, but to then re-roll even the negative ones that come on there, to maybe get you one that's maybe not so negative, to make it something that you can live with, and make the piece of gear manageable, obviously, until you get an upgrade. To me, that's fucking huge. They feel like, like orbs of alchemy, or chaos orbs from Path of Exile, kind of, with what the nature, it seems, that's behind what they do. But that was a simple little change that made a world of fucking difference, man. So I am super thrilled. Like I said, still getting into the crafting into things, but those embers now that you can do that, it's like, dude, I am looking for these things all the fucking time, and obviously at the moment it seems like I can never get enough. So it's like you want to hold on to them, but you want to use them at the same time. There were a lot of performance and quality of life changes, major performance improvements. I say myself, I play on a 5070, so, but I don't like to use the DLSS. I go DLAA if anything, because I don't like to give up any of my resolution. So my entire playthrough, and in the footage you'll see in the background here and there in this video, was all done with basically no DLSS. There's no frame generation. The game doesn't even support the frame gen yet, so it's complete 100% resolution. But I gotta tell you, the game runs better 95% of the time. Like, dude, when this game first came out, when it first hit early access, this shit was rough. It was not an easy game to run, man. You would drop frames in so many places. The game is so fucking gorgeous, right? Like the art style, everything, and everything that goes on in this game, it all works towards giving you one single feeling of immersion, and it works. And I'm talking everything from the look, the artwork, the look of the world, to the ambience noises from literally everything in the game, to the way the wind always blows, and the trees and the grass and the bushes are always moving. How you can hear the fire, cracking and popping when you're sitting next to a fire, or when maybe you're cooking food. The way the weapons sound, it's like they take all these different things, and they are so good at all those different things that when they're brought together to make one feeling, they fucking nail it. The immersion in this game and your ability to just get lost in this world. When you've got headphones on, man, and you've got decent headphones, and you've got a decent monitor like this huge OLED I have in front of me. I know. It's absolutely, it's on a whole nother level, man. So to circle back around to the point, the game was never really an easy game to run, even when you had mid to decent hardware. I remember before I got this 5070, I had an Asus ROG Strix 3080, which it still by today's standards is a decent card. But even with the 5070, now once the frame gens out, things like that, I'll play around with that or whatever. But again, I'm a guy that likes to have 100% of his resolution. My monitor is a 3440 by 1440, so I don't, I tend to stay away from that when I can. But if it gets to the point to where it's affecting my gameplay and I'm not rocking a solid 60 FPS, then I will turn stuff like that on. But all in all, raw performance, the game runs way fucking better than what it did before. Again, as we just mentioned, the real world project, now the timers are instant. There's no long wait for these things anymore. I would consider that to be a huge quality of life change. They did overhaul some of the UI. I think some of it's been redesigned, like the realm screen, the crafting tables, the inventory menus. They say that the inventory menus have been redesigned, but I don't really see it, to be completely honest with you. It looks pretty much the same in my opinion, and it still feels like it needs some work. So I'm hoping they get. It reminds me of Zelda Breath of the Wild. If you ever played that game, you know exactly how much of a headache and how fucking stupid the inventory management in that game was. And it isn't quite that bad. Matter of fact, it's not even close to being that bad. But it gives you a similar feeling as far as the inventory and your loot management and things like that. I guess the vendor stocks are now randomized. They used to be on a 24-hour timer. They would have the same things, but if you went and bought things from them, you literally had to wait 24 real-time hours in real life in order for the vendors to be restocked. And also, they added the guest system to your house. Goes back to the things I was touching on about having to give permissions to the people you invite to your realm to be able to access things like your home, to be able to do things with stuff like your furniture, to be able to access stuff like your storage or your stash boxes, things of that nature. So that pretty much wraps it up as far as what I wanted to touch on with the current state of No Rest for the Wicked. I think that the one thing this game does better than anything else and better than any other game out there that I've played is, like I said, they are second to none when it comes to the music, the way the world just has this way of seamlessly moving at all times. The world feels like it's alive, and that is not an easy thing to capture as developers, I don't imagine, with some of these worlds. Because, dude, I've been gaming since I was 5 years old. Okay, I'm 42. Shh, don't tell anybody. But that's over 35 years I've been playing games, right? This world has a uniqueness to it, has a feeling to it, a vibe that no other game has ever had. They bring all of these awesome things together to sell you one feeling and one vibe, and they fucking nail it. I love it. I'm in love with the game as is. I'm tickled to death that it's like it's already this good and it's only going to get better because we're still in fucking early access. We don't even have a date yet for a 1.0 release. So, and to me, like, I'm all for it. Like, I'm not upset that we didn't get a release date or anything yet. Look, man, they'll bring it out when it's ready. And it's also coming to consoles, right? And of course, you know there's going to be cross-play and cross-progression. But I'm telling you right now, when this game launches in its full state and 1.0 comes out, mark my words here and now, Hot Chips is telling you right now, this game will be the #1 played game, the #1 game to hold a concurrent player count of any game that's out. Like, I dread whatever is releasing around the time No Rest for the Wicked comes out for 1.0. This game is amazing. They took multiplayer to a whole nother fucking level, right? I'm a big Diablo guy. Girlfriend plays Diablo. Brother plays Diablo. We're really just ARPG nuts. My girl's pretty much primarily Diablo, but still, it's like the multiplayer. It's like, oh yeah, I can jump in and help you out real quick. I'll, slaughter a boss for her 10 fucking times or whatever. Try to get her mythic or whatever, or get her master working materials up, and then it's like, all right, later, and that's it. In this game, everybody is always working towards building the world itself. And that adds a whole nother dimension to the multiplayer that most of these other games right now just don't have, man. Like, imagine you didn't have to download a seamless co-op mod for Elden Ring. And you were able just to explore that world at your own pace, together, separate in the same world, whatever would have you. And then put the town building and the city building inside that. Right? That's what this game encapsulates, and it's just wonderful. Listen, everybody, if you made it this far into the video and you are not yet a subscriber, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. If you could throw me a like, maybe comment this thing, even share it if you want to. It all goes a very, very long way for the channel. We've had some really good growth in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We've gained almost 120 subscribers in the last 3 weeks of the channel. And I am doing my best to continue to pump the videos out to you guys so we can keep running the numbers up. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks for staying this long into the video and dealing with my ass. This is Hot Chips. Everybody, have a great night and even better tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace and love.